My name is Darren Malia, and this is my Dismantling Stereotypes presentation. The movie I chose to watch is called Penguin Bloom. It was released in 2020 and stars Naomi Watts. Penguin Bloom is based on the true story of Sam Bloom, an Australian nurse who suffered a spinal cord injury at the age of 49 while vacationing with her family in Thailand. After her injury and while she was learning to accept her new reality, her family takes in an injured magpie, and the story of her recovery is parallel to that of the bird. The bird becomes a symbol of her process of healing and regaining her sense of purpose. Sam is the mother of 3 young boys, and before her injury, she was a surfer and an ocean enthusiast. At one point, one of her sons makes the comment about Penguin, the magpie, that it must be weird having wings but not being able to fly. This is clearly a symbolic reference back to Sam, who is no longer able to live the same active lifestyle that she used to. In addition to the symbolism, Penguin acts as an emotional catalyst throughout the film as well. Portrayal of disability. Sam's spinal cord injury occurred in the T6 region of her spinal cord. I think the film's portrayal of her injury and subsequent disability is pretty accurate. Sam has paraplegia as a result of her injury and has lost all function in the lower half of her body, including loss of bowel and bladder control. In fact, there are a couple of scenes in the movie that show Sam with a catheter and also show her dealing with her external bladder collection bag. There's also a scene that shows Sam having these involuntary leg tremors. I was not previously aware of this as a potential side effect of spinal cord injury, so I was glad to have done some additional research. Psychosocial stigma. Overall, I think the film portrays Sam and how she is dealing with her recent disability in a really positive light and manages to avoid some of the historical tropes described in both the Longmore and Hayes and Black articles. Hayes and Black say that in previous films, the disability only figures into the plot or the character development as a device that allows the narrative to unfold. That is absolutely not the case in Penguin Bloom. Sam Bloom is depicted as a strong woman and complex character who is dealing with the realities of her disability in what feels like an authentic manner. The model of pity, confinement, and rehabilitation is largely avoided. Sam is angry and at times despondent, but that feels authentic, and the film does not portray her as a supercrip, or someone who has a superhuman ability to persevere in the face of hardship, or someone who sees her disability as a gift that has given her a new perspective on life. She is portrayed as a real person, and despite the challenges related to her disability, she has not given up total control of her life. Longmore points out that non-disabled characters have no trouble accepting individuals with disabilities and understand better than the handicapped characters the true nature of the problem. I think there's possibly some of that portrayed in Penguin Bloom, but I also think the film does a good job depicting the challenges that the entire family is dealing with as a result of this injury. Obviously, Naomi Watts does not have a disability, but Sam Bloom appears to have played a significant role on the set of the film, so I suspect that she had a big influence on how she was portrayed and made sure that there was some authenticity to both the character and the physical portrayal of her. Effect on individuals. Language. There is a scene where Sam's mom refers to her as a spastic, and the audience experiences the appropriate cringe. Her mom also speaks to her like she's helpless. This feels like a realistic portrayal of how people with disabilities are spoken to and about. I think it draws light on this for people who are not used to interacting with people with disabilities. Character depth and development. I think the way Sam is portrayed is really important. She is a complex character with a lot of depth, and her struggle to come to grips with her new reality feels authentic. She's not a caricature, and I suspect that people with disabilities appreciate that portrayal. And family struggle. Sam is not isolated in how she is processing this. Her entire family, especially her eldest son and husband, are struggling alongside her, but they are not portrayed as some superhuman support staff. They are portrayed as real humans with real emotions and really struggling along with her to come to grips with their new reality. The learning experience for me throughout this whole process was to approach the media that I consume with a more critical eye toward the depiction of individuals with disabilities. I don't think I had previously thought very deeply about how these characters are portrayed, and some of the stereotypes that have been laid upon them, and how my interpretation of individuals with disabilities has been impacted by those 'This process has been really helpful for me. I think that this film does a really good job of highlighting the humanity and complexity of Sam, and I think that should be the goal for all movie depictions of characters with disabilities. I know I will be a more responsible consumer of that media going forward. I also think it's really interesting the parallels that other movies have, other movies that are dealing with racial issues have with some of these movies that are depicting characters with disabilities, and the white saviors or the non-disabled characters who are able to see through some of the emotional struggles and some of the emotional disabilities of the characters with disabilities. I think that's been a really important thing for me to recognize and for me to carry forward. And these are my references. Thanks.